The 2023 NHL Draft might be franchise defining for the San Jose Sharks.
You're Locked On Sharks, your daily podcast on the San Jose Sharks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, welcome to Locked On Sharks, the premier hockey podcast covering your favorite team in the Bay Area. My name is JD Young, caretaker at the Reef, also the co-host of Locked On NHL. I want to thank you for making Locked On Sharks your first listen. Proudly part of the Locked On Network, we cover your team every day. And if you want to be an everydayer, all you have to do is just follow along wherever you get podcasts, or you can watch on YouTube as well. And today we're going to be looking at Mike Grier's first real draft class, the 2023 draft. We're going to be reviewing their seasons and kind of seeing what's next for a lot of these players. So this class, of course, really I think is going to be a big defining piece of what these Sharks are building towards, and is on its way to looking pretty good. So let's start by just as a quick reminder of the draft class. Of course, since this draft only happened less than 2 years ago, everybody is still technically with the franchise. The first round, the Sharks picked Will Smith, 4th overall, Quentin Musty, 26th overall. The second round, they got Kasper Halttunen, 36th. The third round, Brandon Svoboda, 71st overall. The fourth round, they picked Luca Cagnoni, 123rd overall. The fifth round, they had two picks where they picked Axel Landin, 130, and then Eric Polkamp, 132. And then in the seventh round, they picked David Klee at 196 and Igor Ramashevsky at 203. So we're going to spend some time kind of talking about each one of these guys and what to expect for them, round out their season and what kind of to expect for them going forward. And of course, we have to start with Will Smith, who spent this year his first full season or his first season in the NHL. Of course, there was much conversation, we'll say, about whether he should have gone pro, whether he should have gone back to Boston College, how the Sharks handled him the first half of the season. Turns out Will Smith, pretty good at hockey. I think it's safe to say after his first full season. With the Sharks, he played 74 games this year. Of course, he had, some games at the beginning of the season where they kept him out, part of his strength and conditioning program. And as they kind of ramped him up to get him ready to become an NHL player, he finished with 18 goals, 27 assists, 45 points as a 19-year-old with 127 shots on goal. Average time on ice around 15:51. Corsi for 46.92. Goals for 48.94. His card was very fun to update because when I did this right around kind of the midway point of the season, he was averaging like 14 minutes a night, and you saw that jump up to almost 16 minutes a night. Like the goals for Corsi for made huge jumps as well. And Smith, by the end of the season, really established himself. That second half of the year was a much better player than he was the first half of the season. And that's something we talked about last year where we, when he signed, I said, he's going to get his butt kicked for a whole year, but he's going to be better NHL. He's going to be a better hockey player than if he'd just gone back to Boston College, where he would have been the big man on campus, right? And just gone, had a really fun time just destroying kids, and stuff. But he's a better player for it, right? And I think Will Smith has established himself as a foundational core piece for the San Jose Sharks going forward. And I think now the big question is, okay, can he do it at center, right? And that's the big thing with Grier, right? Is that he does want Smith to move him to center, and he's literally the words out of his mouth. We drafted him to be a center. So that's going to be the big question now is you had success the second half of the season, kind of once you got your footing underneath you, playing on the wing. We saw him play with, Celebrini. We saw him play with Eklund. We saw him play with Wenberg. We saw him play with a bunch of different types of players. But I think now, can you be the guy on the line? right? Can you drive the line is going to be the next big question for Will Smith. And I think free agency is going to be a big part of trying to find some players who can play with Will Smith this upcoming season. And yes, there's plenty of fun players coming in the pipeline. And we're going to talk about a couple of the wingers here in a second, but you gotta support Will Smith now. And that's kind of one of the reasons why I do think they're going to be somewhat aggressive in trying to acquire talent that can play with Will Smith. Because yes, we believe Quentin Musty is probably going to be pretty good. We believe Halttunen is going to be good, but they're not going to be good next year, right? And they're not going to play, probably not going to play NHL games this year. Or if they do, it's going to be a very small amount. And I think it's a lot to ask Musty or Halttunen and or Chernyshov or whomever to come in and be impact players for the Sharks right away, right? That's and for Smith. I think, right, we saw William Eklund a couple of years ago struggle to drive a line because of, right, the players that he had to on his line. So, but yeah, so I do think it is important for the Sharks to find players to play with Will Smith. So, but so far, like, you got to be feeling really great about where Will Smith is going, what we've seen from him as he is just scratching the surface of what type of player he's going to be. And he's had a very nice Worlds as well. So for Team USA, so got to feel pretty good about Will Smith and his future here. So next guy here, Quentin Musty. So he's of course the 26th pick. Split his time between, or not split, but he started the season at OHL. Got a couple games with the Barracuda at the end of the season. We know, of course, the Musty season was a very weird one where he held out from Sudbury when he get traded, missed the first month of the season, came back, played a handful of games, broke his hand, came back, about 6 weeks later, and then played the rest of the season with Sudbury, and they got knocked out in the first round. Despite some of the issues with Musty and his playing time this year, he still put up 30 goals in 33 games, had 29 assists and 154 shots on goal. Was a little bit banged up for Sudbury as they went into their playoffs. Not the most effective playoff run from Musty. You could tell he wasn't 100%, but I think for the season he had in Sudbury, it was definitely one that he was productive, but maybe, of course, definitely not the season that he expected. He did get some time with the Barracuda at the end of the year. So including his playoffs, he actually played 4 games, 3 regular season and one playoff game where he had 3 shots on goal during that time. For Musty, right, he's now a professional hockey player. Like, he will be on the Barracuda next season. And I know there's people already like, can he make the Sharks next year and stuff like that? The best thing for Quentin Musty, and I've watched a lot of Quentin Musty games, is to spend, I would almost give him the William Eklund season that we saw in the AHL, right? Of just let him play the whole year in the AHL next year. It's going to be the best thing for him. Let him round out his game. Let him hopefully earn some playing time in all situations, because I actually think he could be a really sick penalty killer with his speed and his transition ability and his shot. Let him round out his game in the AHL and kind of get that full year of playing professional hockey. Yes, I know he's played a bajillion games in the O, right, and with their schedule, but it's still it's kind of similar to the AHL where it's very kind of weekend heavy. I do think his game will translate, and I don't think you'll have problems kind of with that translation. Like sometimes you see from the college kids where, once they hit that kind of game 40, 45, they start to hit that wall. I don't think we'll see that from Musty because of like his conditioning and the way he plays. But I do want to see him just spend the whole year in the AHL, and by the end of it, just kind of be one of those top guys for this Barracuda team, because I do think this Barracuda team will continue to be very talented, even with some of the losses they're going to have, and 2, I do think he's going to be a huge part of it. And the last thing I want to do is rush him into the NHL because you don't have wingers for Will Smith or whatever. I think this is a guy who needs to get used to playing against professional hockey players, right? I think he's got all the talent in the world. I think he's a hard worker. I think he has the right mentality. I think he just needs reps in games against professional players. And before we really start for him to kind of talk about making an impact in the NHL, and that's okay. Like that is okay for Musty to take that route. It is not the worst thing in the world for him to spend a whole season playing in the AHL and hopefully, fingers crossed, be dominant by the end of it. So we're going to talk about some of the rest of the guys here, including Kasper Halttunen and kind of the expectations for him going forward. We'll also talk about Luca Cagnoni and some of the late round picks here in just 1 second. Ever check your bank account, wonder where did all my money go between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment? If you're like me, just buying snacks for your children, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place so you can stop just managing your money and start building wealth. Instead of juggling multiple apps, you can use Monarch to check your finances, track spending, and even plan long-term goals. Managing money with your partner is smoother than ever. You can track shared and personal accounts, set goals, and stay on the same page without the stress. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNHL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNHL for half off your first year. All right, before we continue, talk about Halttunen, et cetera, do, of course, want to thank you for making Locked On Sharks your first listen. If you haven't yet, perfect time to subscribe right now as we continue to kind of do our research and get you ready for the simulated offseason where I'm going to do everything I think Mike Greer should do. 100% going to get it wrong. But we're going to continue next week looking at kind of mid-tier free agents. So we've looked at all the top-end guys. Going to start kind of digging into the mid-tier class, continue to get you ready for the 2025 NHL Draft. All that fun stuff. So making sure you're following along wherever you get podcasts. And, of course, you can watch on YouTube as well. All right. Next dude, of course, the second-round pick, Kasper Halttunen. Halttunen in 38 regular season games with London, 21 goals, 20 assists, 152 shots on goal. Of course, was the MVP of the OHL playoffs especially with his performance in the finals. Could have actually, there's a very strong argument for him to be the back-to-back MVP. I know Easton Cowan won it last year. Halttunen also monster playoff run last year as well. But he's starting the Memorial Cup here. I think it's actually Saturday. It's either Friday or Saturday. It's his London's first game. As that's kind of the last thing that they need to do to check off that box and move on. But Halttunen is a player who there's always going to be questions about him, kind of with the way he drives play, et cetera, et cetera. But I do think he is a really nice, a very high-end complementary piece. He also, of course, did start the season with the Barracuda. 6 games, 2 goals, 2 assists, 12 shots on goal in that time. Kasper Halttunen is going to continue to fire the puck at the net. But with Halttunen, I do believe watching him in London, he started the season a little slower over there. I know he's coming off a concussion that he suffered with the Barracuda before going back. A little slow, but as the season progressed, he continued to play stronger and stronger. And again, the playoffs where he was absolutely on fire. And when Halttunen gets on fire, there's that man can score a lot of goals. That is an NHL caliber shot from him, right? One of the hardest shots you will ever see from a juniors player. But I do believe his role, right? I don't think he needs to be a play driving type of guy, right? I've always kind of put him in the Kevin LeBanc role, right? Of, can you score on the power play? Can you help out a little bit here defensively, and stuff? And I think with forechecks, with Halttunen's size and skill, I do believe his forechecking is going to be a massive asset for the Sharks. His physicality, you see that, you've seen that in the AHL, you saw that in the OHL a ton. And I do think that's going to translate. For him, it's always going to be conditioning, right? Especially as a power forward type of player. I'm not saying he's a power, but just that kind of a bigger body type of player who likes to play physical. It's going to always be a little bit about conditioning with him. But I do believe he is a guy who can be a super awesome Kevin LeBanc type of player. Of, you're going to play, kind of middle six types of minutes, but you're going to have big impacts when you do type of again, not the same type of player as LeBanc. I think Halttunen is I think he hopefully turns out to be a little bit more well-rounded, but that type of role for him. So he'll be next year on the Barracuda. And again, I'd like to see him continue to work on, his skating. Again, I'm not like a skating expert, but if I think your skating needs some work, it probably needs some work, especially that first step from him, that first burst. And I think getting here in San Jose and being able to work on that, we'll probably see some improvements from him really quickly. But again, right, there's going to be a lot of pieces potentially moving out of the Barracuda, and there's going to be some prime opportunities. I think he's going to have a chance to quickly grab a role there. So next, of course, was the third round pick, Brandon Svoboda. Svoboda played for Boston University this season. 33 games, 7 goals, 2 assists, 41 shots on goal. Svoboda mostly kind of played third or fourth line center for Boston University, which is fine. And that's still kind of what you project him to be for the Sharks eventually, several years down the line. But I thought as a true freshman, I thought he really kind of handled his assignment well. He was playing in all situations for Boston University, like playing on the power play, playing on the penalty kill, and kind of getting a chance to play with some of the some of the upper players while, in those key moments there. So for him, I'd like to see him kind of next season really kind of grab a bigger role and hopefully be more of a middle six type of player for them. I'm not sure what their lineup and who, you never know with college hockey, with the landscape and how guys are coming and going, but I would expect him to kind of be more of a middle six guy and be, hopefully continue to see that production go up, as he gets more and more minutes here. So, and hopefully kind of be more like potentially, 15 goal and see that maybe those assists go up a little bit more as he kind of earns some more and more ice time. But Svoboda is definitely has to kind of figure out his role and what he's going to be good at. But I think there's still a lot of talented aspects from him to kind of look forward to. So before we hit the break, we got the Cagnoni Hive stand up. Luca Cagnoni, what a season in the AHL. 64 games, 16 goal, franchise record for defensemen, 16 goals, 36 assists, 115 shots on goal for the San Jose Barracuda. Also played games for the San Jose Sharks this year. He scored in 6 games. He had 2 goals, 2 assists, 0 goals, 7 shots on goal. Played 17.39 a night, which is nothing to sneeze at for a 4th round pick in the 2023 draft. 41.88 Corsi for, 36.14 goals for. Cagnoni, I think, again, even the biggest queen bees of the Cagnoni Hive didn't expect what we saw from Luca Cagnoni this season, right? A guy who almost made the team out of training camp. stepped in with the Barracuda, and from day one was a huge part of it. And what they did was a driving force for them on the blue line, and made a really nice impact in the NHL as well. And I do think for Cagnoni next year, I do expect him to start on the Barracuda as he continues to kind of round out his game, especially in the defensive zone, where, again, right, being 5'9", he's never going to be the most physical, dynamic defender, but just using his smarts, using his creativity and positioning, and continuing to iron that out, as well as I think being a little more consistent scoring threat at 5-on-5. But if he does that, we might be looking at full-time NHL player Luca Cagnoni by the second half of the season. So really excited about Cagnoni and where he's going. And if he hits, again, these small defensemen, when it comes to the NHL, they're either they don't make it, or if they make it, they're really good. There's no in between. And I still feel really good about Luca Cagnoni and his outlook. One of my favorite players. And I think it's nice to share the Cagnoni hive, more people in the Cagnoni hive here. So, but yeah, absolutely outstanding season. And I think we're just kind of scratching the surface with Cagnoni and what he can do for the Sharks. So we're going to dig into some of the later round picks here. A lot of defensemen to kind of tackle here. So we'll get to that in just 1 second. All right, before we finish up, especially talk about Eric Polkamp, do, of course, want to thank you guys for making the Locked On Sharks your first listen. For your second listen, check out the all-new Locked On NHL Game Night. Every game, every night, until a Stanley Cup champion is crowned. Get local analysis on a national scale. Find NHL Game Night on Locked On NHL on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. All right, so Axel Landin played for 4 teams, his hometown HV71 in the SHL. We had 4 games, 0 goals, 0 assists with 0 shots on goal. He was loaned out to the Hockey Allsvenskan, where he played for the IK Oskarshamn. Sounds like Oscar Meyer. Anyway, there he had 45 games, 2 goals, 6 assists with 49 shots on goal. Then once the season was over, he signed an ATO, amateur tryout, to play with the Barracuda, where he got 2 games in, 0 goals, 0 assists, 0 shots on goal. He currently doesn't have a contract with anyone right now. I would expect him to, I assume he's going to sign his San Jose Sharks ELC at some point here. And my guess is he probably plays on the Barracuda next year. Would be my guess. Maybe he starts with the Wichita Thunder in the ECHL, but my guess is he's probably over here in North America. Landin, known for his defensive skills, physicality, and I do think his game will translate much better in North America, kind of like Philip said, where I think he's just kind of built for North American hockey a little bit more. I didn't get a chance to watch a lot of him over in Sweden, but watching his games here in North America, he fit very much in, right? And kind of that quiet, calm, defensive, I'm just going to kind of do all the little right things here. Probably not going to hear my name a lot on the broadcast, but I do think he's got a chance to kind of just be that nice calming presence on a blue line. And if you partner him with a more offensive player, I think he has that's kind of the recipe for success for him. So, but yeah, I expect him hopefully to be here in North America next season, where he can help this Barracuda team in some of the pieces that they have. So, next guy who was picked 2 picks later, Eric Polkamp. 5th round pick. Remember, he was an overager. He should have was eligible to be drafted in the 2022 draft. Got skipped over and drafted in the 5th round. Transferred to University of Denver. Played 44 games, 11 goals, 24 assists, 151 shots on goal. Was always kind of the second guy behind Z Bulliam, and Polkamp had himself a really, really nice season. with the University of Denver. There's still questions on what he's going to do next, right? And I believe, right, we know David Carl is going to be back. I would assume he probably goes back to Denver for one more season, where especially with Z Bouillon gone, he's probably going to be the guy on the blue line and could have a real massive season with Denver. Or maybe at rookie tournament in July, maybe he signs his ELC there and becomes a professional hockey player there. But Polkamp looks like a potential diamond in the rough for his ability to play a two-way game. Massive shot from the blue line. I love his physicality. He was giving it to Ryan Leonard in the Frozen Four. That is not an easy assignment, and he did not back down to it. Really good. You especially saw this in the the USHL, and then his first season with Bemidji State of just shutting guys down at the blue line, like I'm not giving you an inch as soon as you try to cross the blue line. Excellent rush kind of defender in that way of just shutting things down there. So I'm really excited about Polkamp and what his future could be as again, a potential diamond in the rough type of player for the Sharks. So next guy is David Klee. Congratulations to Mr. Klee as he just won the Clark Cup with the Muskegon Lumberjacks in the USHL. The captain here, 58 games, 19 goals, 26 assists, 145 shots on goal. Guy who spent a lot of time in the USHL. He's going to be going to North Dakota now to continue his next step. I still think he's going to be kind of a long-term project for the Sharks. And my guess is he kind of mostly probably tops out as an AHL type of player, but still more organizational depth for you. And having depth in the organization is never a bad thing. So, so I'm, again, probably grinder type of guy, maybe pots you a couple goals here and there, but that's kind of where I expect him to kind of end up for the Sharks. So, and then finally, the other 7th round pick, Igor Ramashevsky, 58 games in the KHL with Dynamo Moskva, 7 goals, 8 assists, 75 shots on goal. Still only kind of getting about that 10 to 11 minutes a night, which is what you see kind of how they treat their young players there. So I think the big thing for him next now is, can you earn more ice time and be a bigger part for Dynamo? And I know Dynamo is always a good team over there, but I think that's kind of the next step for him is to kind of be that guy. We'll see if he ever comes over and if the Sharks ever sign him to a contract or anything like that. Is with the KHL players, like you kind of own their rights forever. So, but we'll see. I think if he has a big season this year, could be one of those things where maybe you start to kind of him coming over could maybe kind of pick up some traction. So, that's the 2023 draft class. So you got to feel really good about the direction of this draft, right? You have what looks like one extremely foundational impact player in Will Smith. Looks like you might have some other impact players in Quentin Musty and Kasper Halttunen, Luca Cagnoni as your potential kind of diamond in the rough, as well as Eric Polkamp as well. And then some more organizational depth and guys like Brandon Swoboda, Axel Landin, et cetera. Like there's a lot of pieces and stuff here to like from the Sharks and the direction that they are going. So yeah, I mean, overall, this feels like is going to be a pretty foundational class in the Sharks as they kind of continue to build this thing and turn this thing around. So that's going to be it for me today. We'll be back next week as we continue to dig into free agency. Again, going to be focusing more on that the middle class of free agents, and I think where Mike Greer is probably going to do most of his shopping. So make sure you're following along wherever you get podcasts. And of course, you can watch on YouTube as well. Follow the show on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Locked On Sharks. Follow me on Twitter and Blue Sky at My Fry Hole. Till tomorrow or Monday, whenever. Bye, friends.